Hello, and welcome back to the Ambassadors of Gaming. I'm one in your collection, group, host, whatever you want to call us, Michael, and today I've brought with me...
We've got Darrell with you tonight.
Yes, that's your cue. It's okay. We're shaking off all the rust. We spent 10 minutes trying to figure out how to record again, so it's all good.
It's been so long.
Yeah, it really has, especially since you and I got together. We were talking on it's been since roughly January, so it's been a while. But it feels like an eternity in 2020. So, but anyways, we're gonna discuss The Last of Us 2 because we both recently beat it. I think you said you beat it yesterday or the day before?
Yesterday.
Okay, so it's super fresh in your mind. I just beat it, I think 2 or 3 days ago. I have to go back and check. All my days blur together now. And I'm playing it again on New Game Plus. So obviously we're going to spoil the shit out of this game. That's why it's called a Spoilercast. We're going to discuss everything about it. So if you don't want spoilers, do not watch this. I'm going to give you like maybe 40 more seconds of bullshitting before we get into it, because I don't want anybody to complain, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's spoilers. In the headline, it will say Spoilercast, obvious spoilers. Do not watch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all right. I think we've given the people enough time, all right? I've given you a minute and a half.
Yeah. The spoiler's coming.
If you're here and you bitch, I'm sorry. We gave you a chance.
Spoilers coming.
Right. So
Pre-warning. Spoiler alert.
I have a handful of points here, only of things I really, really care about. Do you have anything right off the bat that you feel like you want to discuss? Because obviously we're going to get into everything. A little bit of gameplay, story, obviously all that kind of stuff, environment, art, all the stuff that's important to us. So
if you're going to go a story, go through as you start to finish. It's probably
sure
the most...
So
I mean, the biggest point of the story is Joel.
Yeah, Joel is obviously the central part to the story. I guess real quick, I'll hit on this point first because it's I don't want to go in chronological order of the story, but I think it's important to just hit this one point so we can move past it. I think one of the common things I've seen among people that have played it, and this is just also my opinion, is that the intro up until obviously the big initial scene with Joel that kind of drives the story from then on feels a little bit drawn out. It's not that it's not good. It's world building. I understand that. But it's also like really, really like dialogue heavy. Like they're really trying to set up these new characters and stuff like that, which I kind of appreciate. But it's like, how long what did you say it takes until you get there? Roughly like 2 hours, right? For most people, from like booting up the start of your save till like the time that happens, like an hour and a half, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
So that's my only real complaint with the intro. I like. Because like I said, I'm playing on New Game Plus, and I'm just like skip cutscene, skip cutscene, skip cutscene. You know what I mean? At the beginning, and I got through the beginning in like 30 minutes, I think, past to the point with Joel, which I think is where we should really start as like the huge spoiler. So obviously, I guess I'll let you go first because I kind of have an idea what I want to say on it, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. We discussed a bit.
I mean, I'll go off your points on the intro. I had no issues with that because obviously, we all know Joel. We all know who Maria is. We all know Tommy. We all know Ellie. But Jesse, we didn't know. Dina, we didn't know. And the Jackson community, we only saw
briefly.
Community at the end of The Last of Us because they're going down and you can see the community.
Yeah.
We only see a glimpse of it. So, for me, it was like, this is where we are now. This is their world.
Right.
And I didn't have any issues with it, but everybody's different.
Right.
And you go through, you've got Ellie and Dina going off on patrol, and then they find...
Yeah, they find...
Joel and Tommy,
yeah.
Joel and Tommy haven't checked in. And in this period, you get introduced to Abby and Owen, and it's like, who the blazes are these guys?
Right, and
at the first,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They don't tell you. They don't tell you, and it's evident at the time why they don't tell you. Because if they did, that would have probably
Yeah, it
mess
would have
things
been a
up quite a
spoiler.
bit.
Yeah, it shows through actually in my New Game Plus playthrough when I'm watching it. It still shows through the exact spoilers that we're talking about. Like you can get that feel from those characters when you're watching those scenes again. Like the context is already there. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of see it in the way Abby looks at Joel, for example, and stuff like that. So I guess that I want to discuss not only that big scene, but I guess the way it happens, because I think the way it happens is just as impactful as it happening. Because it's not like I guess typically in The Last of Us, when you see people die, especially in the first one, it's just very quick. It's just like, all right, this person's dead, like just poof, they're dead. But
Yeah.
Joel doesn't get that. So do you want to discuss that a bit, or do you care if I go into it a bit?
I'll start off.
Yeah, go for it.
Because even all the other deaths in the game, you've got Jesse later on. You don't see Leah's death. You don't see the ones Tommy kills, so you don't know how they went. The only ones you see are Jesse and Joel, really. Owen and Mel.
Owen and Mel, and that's really it. Because she doesn't kill Nora either, I don't think. It's implied.
No, I think she does, because you see her with the wrench.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That it doesn't show it exactly, but it implies it heavily.
No. Yeah, and Manny, who Tommy killed.
Yeah. So
like Manny's death was quick. Mel's death was fairly quick. Owen's death was fairly quick. Jesse's death was brutally quick. Yara's death was fairly quick.
Yeah, everybody else is pretty much shot to death like immediately, but Joel gets the worst of it.
Joel. The only time in entertainment media or anything I've seen it prolonged like that, and I mean the way Abby did it.
Yeah.
It made me think of Negan with Abraham and Glenn on The Walking Dead.
Right, I recall that being a huge deal when that episode aired.
Yeah, because you can see he's lying there, his face is battered, and then you see her bring the club down, and there's only one place she's bringing that club down, that's on his head.
Right, and fucking Ellie has to watch the whole damn thing, is I think what ultimately makes it. I think that's like the cherry on the cake of just the brutality of his death. Is like not only is he getting beat to death, she has to watch it.
Yeah. I remember seeing that scene, and I remember seeing Abby bring the club down, and I was like, what have I just seen? Because I remember the trailers, you could see there's a bit in Seattle,
and
you see the hand grab her and pull her in, and it's Joel in one of the trailers. Which in the game is Jesse. It's in Capitol Hill when they escape, and they end up having to cross the river because they've crashed the truck.
Oh yeah. Okay. See, that's probably
that scene,
like one of those things that throw you off. Yeah.
I'm sure the original trailers of that scene was Joel.
I'd be very interested to go back and watch that because I know there's a scene where him and her are discussing things in a bedroom and she's playing guitar in the trailers. And that never shows up in the game. So maybe it was like they changed the story or something.
Yeah, because he comes in all bloody and she's playing the guitar.
Yeah. I think the one thing is that I think we all kind of knew going into it, especially it being a revenge plot, it was obviously going to be somebody she cared about. And the person she cared about most that we know of is Joel. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not she found out what happened and at the end of The Last of Us or whatever, like, she still has this connection with Joel regardless, you know?
But that scene played, and I literally had to pause the game.
It's fucking heavy.
I left it on. I had to pause the game and just take 10 minutes. It broke me. It hit me hard. It broke me.
I was like, I can't believe they did it this way. I figured this would happen, but damn, like, yeah, the brutality of it is
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it like that.
Exactly. That's what I said. And I think I saw a couple of comments when I was scrolling through like the Facebook group and Twitter, and it was all like, not like that, man. Not like that. And, you know, like, so obviously that resonated with people. And I think that's kind of the tough choice you have to make when you're making games with these types of stories, because like I don't know, man. It's like, of course I would love to have had Joel live, but I think that I don't know, this game especially, I don't recall as much the original, because it's not just fresh in my mind, but I remember the original being grounded enough to be like, okay, this person's in a life or death situation and they're probably going to die. Like, with the very few, I think there's a very few cases in the first game where Joel escapes death a couple of times and Ellie escapes death a couple of times, where like they get pretty lucky, and that happens in this game too, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know, I guess part of me when I watched that scene was like, oh come on, pull the video game magic, you know what I mean? Like, don't let it happen, come on man, let Joel still be okay. And then there's just like, no, he's fucking done for. And so yeah, I we discussed this too, because I think it was yeah, it was the later part that actually made me pause, once the first big showdown between Ellie and Abby, that I paused and I was like, I'm not ready to deal with how this is going down. I don't even know what's about to happen, but I'm not emotionally prepared for what's about to happen.
Is this where you play through as Abby and you
yes
hit the theater? Yeah,
I was
to fight Ellie. I wasn't ready for that.
I wasn't either emotionally, and I guess I want to talk about that too, because I thought that fight was fucking great. Like, that was really cool. Because I don't know what the AI is like on everybody's playthrough, but she used a lot of her like arsenal that you gain throughout the game. You know what I mean on me?
Yeah, the first, because it's in 3 stages. The first one, she's listening, and. Right. I died so many times on that first fight, that first section, because you have to sneak up on her.
Right.
And then you go crashing through the floor. And then you've got the other one. And then she stabs Abby, and Abby smacks her. And Abby's heavily built.
Yeah,
Abby doesn't take shit.
She's like an army grunt. She's huge.
And she battered Ellie. So we go again. And that one, it didn't take as long, but it still caused me problems. I discovered in that section what was causing me problems. When you start, I'm walking to pick the bottle up, to throw it, and I'm catching those dangling chains, and that was giving me
that's
away.
What I wanted to say is those chains are really cool, and that the environment really mattered a lot in that fight, where it didn't as much in the other fights.
The third section, though, it's like, I'm walking, I'm just doing the listening thing, and I'm going to see her crouching down. And I walk around to try and flank her, and she's put one of those mines down, which blew me back.
You didn't catch it, yeah. Same thing happened to me.
No, I caught it.
Oh, I didn't catch it. It fucking killed me. Like,
she put it, because I was like, what would be the right side of the map, and you've got the open shelving. She put it in the middle of the 2 shelving, but she put it on the right next to one of the shelving. So as I hugged the shelving, I walked into it. I thought, that's smart.
Yeah, the AI. This was one of the weird things. I guess I want to talk on you on the AI too, because like that AI is really good, and I thought the AI throughout the game is really good. But everybody else, one of the major complaints I was seeing from people who said they didn't like is the AI is garbage, and I did not agree with that opinion at all.
No, the AI's. One of the original complaints people had for the first one was the AI. You could be crouched, and you had the early parts of the game. You've got Joel crouched, and I think it's Tess. Just run past.
Run past enemies, and they just don't acknowledge her. Yeah. I would say
whereas here, AI would crouch.
Yeah.
And they would flank.
And the AI is really good, especially, and the dogs too are really good. The AI on the dogs is really good too. I found that to be particularly. Excuse me. The dogs were a particularly hard thing for me to deal with, especially because you don't get many silenced like weapons very early on. I think you get the silencer pretty later on, and then you finally get a bow or whatever. But pretty much everything at that point is still like otherwise you have to crouch up behind them, and with the dogs it's really hard because they have a handler, so there's usually two
And
of them.
Yeah, I remember getting to the scene that they did with State of Play where the dog picks your scent and Ellie runs back and runs through the door and crouches behind the door.
Right.
I crouched around. I hadn't realised I had Molotovs equipped, and I went to just throw the Molotov at the handler, and I was like, I'm going. I was like, throw Molotov at bloke. Oh shit, there's a dog. I'm completely oblivious. I'm just throwing it at the enemy and completely forgot it's dogs, and it's like a Molotov the dog.
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, the screams from the dog were just like.
Yeah.
And then in that
brutal.
same section, I had the dog come at me, and I've actually recorded this, and I got to beat the dog down. I had the shotgun equipped, shotgun with the dog, and then the handler came in, I hit her, and then I don't know if I shot her twice, and I remember looking back up the thing, the dog had no head,
Yeah.
she had no head, there was like brain matter all over the walls, skull fragments all over it's like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
The splatter and the gun effect, like the way that damage is dealt in the game is really weird and interesting because it's definitely way more dynamic than we're used to. I actually have that written down specifically on combat, in my opinion. So what I wrote down was everything about the way you can move and interact is refined to the finest detail. And I actually didn't really feel like I understood the depth of the combat until the end of the game. And
one thing I didn't know with the combat, and I'd seen this video on Twitter today, somebody put it up, somebody had gotten one of the WLF, the wolves.
Yeah.
And Ellie, she knows she can go to grab them, and then she's like, right, I couldn't have used a human shield. But what this person did with the soldier, she walked up to a clicker and let the clicker grab the soldier.
I saw that too. And the clicker just kills the soldier. Yeah.
It's like, I did not know you could do that.
Right. They thought about a lot of things that a lot of us maybe didn't even think about. The combat is so weird in terms of like being so open to so many different possibilities. I know there was that trailer where they pull her out from the truck. That only ever happened to me once because I typically didn't crouch underneath things unless it was the easiest way to get to where I needed to go. Because I really thought that the encounter sections were really well designed in a way that like, okay, like, yeah, you can hide, but also there's these sections that are designed where they're just open and you can't just move from hiding place to hiding place. You have to go out into the open a lot of the times to get to the next hiding place. And I actually didn't, on my playthrough, what I noticed is I didn't use the bombs very often and I didn't use the distraction items very often. Which I easily could have because I found that like if I could eliminate, you know, maybe 3 or 4 people before I really got into it, I could probably take out the other handful of people pretty easily. And I never really struggled with items or gun or ammo or anything like that.
No,
honestly.
I didn't. I mean, the example of how I played was did the resort. And you're looking for, you've got to go to get to the prison. You just entered the resort and you've got the first house and then you've got to follow the train track. And there's 4 rattlers.
Right.
I went through. I didn't fire a single bullet. I took the first 2 out with stealth, walked up and crouched behind them. And the second 2 I took out with the crossbow.
Yeah, the crossbow is really good.
Or the bow. I usually use stealth and going up and sneaking behind them to get them.
That's my preferred way to do it, but I kept getting caught a lot, and that was my own fault. You know?
Obviously, with Abby, you can't do that because she can do it with runners. You can't do it with stalkers.
Yeah.
You definitely don't do it with shamblers, bloaters.
Yeah.
Clickers, they brought back the shiv mechanism from the first game, which Ellie didn't have.
Yeah, she just had a constant knife.
But Abby had to have the shiv, which Joel had to have. Right.
Which I actually kind of enjoyed. I guess there's 2 points on that Abby thing I do kind of want to hit on. I got 3 actually that all involve Abby and the switches. So I want to, I guess with that specifically, the skill tree stuff, I thought that they were actually really good for both characters. I thought they designed them well enough where they each felt like a distinct character, like something that was, felt fitting for each one. I assume you got all the manuals, right? Or you found?
I think I did.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the things I put on here is that the training manuals are actually, I thought they were a huge incentive for you to explore. And I honestly found them pretty easy to find. I didn't have to look too hard to find them. Like, I didn't look up a guide. I just found them on my own. Now, granted, I did do a lot more exploration. I think there's one in particular for Ellie that's, like, hidden away that was pretty hard to find. But I found it just by exploring the area. Like, it wasn't that difficult. And then you were telling me you found all the safes, right?
Yeah, I got all the safes. They were quite easy.
Yeah, I think I missed one or two. I'm going up and cleaning up my trophies now on the New Game Plus.
I got all the safes. I got all the weapons. I think the hardest training manual to possibly find. I've seen people post this in videos, and I didn't have a training manual here, mainly because the deluxe edition gave you this one. It's the one in Seattle downtown, and you go to the fire truck on the bridge, and you got to swing down.
Yeah.
I already had that because it was one of the deluxe edition pre-orders.
Gotcha.
Deluxe edition bonuses.
Yeah, because I got the regular edition, and the only pre-order bonus I think you got was the extended clip or whatever for Ellie right off the bat.
But with the deluxe edition, you can choose to play through and turn the deluxe edition bonuses off.
Right. Yeah, you can turn off the pre-order bonuses as well. So that's kind of nice. Regarding that, actually, with that, when I went back and played through, I know one of the things I got applauded for was the accessibility options, and I didn't really know the depth of them because obviously I don't really need most of those types of options because I don't really need them to play. But they're really, really in depth. Like, the first thing I did when I was looking through the to get the trophies is there's an option in the accessibilities to turn on like a scan basically in the in listen mode that'll identify objects and enemies.
Oh,
yeah. Like, it'll kind
so
of
it's like a sonar type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a sonar.
It's really, really cool. I didn't know that was even in there. I'm glad I didn't use it the first time, but it's very nice.
I've seen a video of it. It comes up like a sonar, and then there's a little circle appears.
Yes, and then go ahead.
I thought it was something to do with the training manuals and something you would learn or unlock. So I was like, oh well.
No, it's just right off the bat. You just can do that if you really want. Basically, there's ways to make the game much easier if you just want to have a more casual, relaxed experience or whatever, and not really have to be like, oh my god, I have to search every nook and cranny. The other option is high contrast mode, which is this is the first for me. It actually uses the touchpad. You swipe left from right to left on the touchpad, and basically it outlines everything in grayscale. It kind of looks like, you know, when we see models being rendered and stuff in like early alpha footage and stuff, where it's all like gray blocks and stuff. It looks like that. And then all the items are highlighted yellow. Like, everything that you need is highlighted in bright yellow, and everything else is gray. So it's super easy to find everything, which is nice. Again, if you want,
that'd be good for speedruns probably.
Yeah, exactly. So like the options, I know, like, and I didn't really want to get into it too much because we don't really use those types of things typically. But the fact that they're there for people who want to use them is really, really cool. I found them to be extremely helpful when I'm playing on New Game Plus and I'm trying to like really kind of I'm not doing a completionist run, but I guess technically I am, because the trophy requires all the artifacts and all the upgrades. So you need to grab everything as much as you can. And speaking on that, I was not certain, based on my first playthrough, how much I could upgrade, because I knew that prior to the launch, Neil Druckmann was like, yeah, there's no way you're going to unlock everything. It's literally impossible to unlock everything on the first playthrough. It's just there's not enough resources available. And there wasn't. And when I'm going back through now, I think I missed a total of like 5 perks, and I thoroughly scavenged, I think.
I thought I had when I look at the chapter list of what you've got left, I was like, Jesus, I actually missed quite a lot, and I thought I'd gone everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I had thought too. But one of the funny things is when I'm playing New Game Plus, they hid a lot of stuff early on in those first 2 chapters before you find Joel. there's a bunch of supplements, parts, and there's a couple trading cards you can get before then that I missed. So like very early on in the game they hid stuff, which you wouldn't necessarily think to look for, you know?
Yeah, because I've got the achievement for visiting everywhere in Seattle downtown.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I missed. I thought I got everything, but I didn't.
I've visited everywhere, but I've missed tons of stuff. It's like,
Yep.
wow.
Yep. That's the one that's going to be a real pain in my ass. I already know it, because that's the chapter I'm coming up to now on my New Game Plus. And I'm like, man, there's going to be so much shit I have to find. This is going to suck. Because that section took me probably roughly like an hour to get past, because I just went to everything, everywhere.
It took me a considerable amount of time, mainly due to the fact I used it a lot for recording. A lot of the footage came from there, and I was just happy exploring it and around and just test soaking the game in, which is what I did for a lot of the game.
Yeah, it's a good way to test it out.
I could have shaved hours off if I'd wanted, but I was happy to just take my time with it.
Exactly. Did you end up finding the time you clocked on it? Because we were talking about it. I don't really it doesn't. I don't think it matters, honestly. But in my perspective, when I was playing through it, I was expecting this to be roughly about a 10 to 12 hour game, roughly, right? That's what I thought I was going to get out of it. And even doing it the way I did it, where I searched really, really hard and went through, like, tried to find every nook and cranny, I spent 23 hours on it.
I was over 30 hours. I know that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because the other ones I was seeing were like 36. So this game is vastly bigger than I thought it was going to be, and I think that actually comes from, and I don't know if this was originally intended. I think maybe some of the reasons we saw the delay was because of the inclusion of Abby's campaign, because it in and of itself like could have been like a whole, almost its own game. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty long, the Abby sections, like her 3As.
Well, Ellie's, you've got Patrol, Seattle Day. Well, you've got the prologue, Patrol, Seattle Day 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
And then you've got the Santa Barbara.
Right.
Because Abby only has one section of Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and it's very short.
Abby has a bit in the prologue. And she's got Seattle 1, 2, and 3 as well, so she's got a hefty amount.
Yeah, it's almost half of the game you play as her, which is something I wasn't anticipating. And I don't know why I didn't anticipate that, given that you play as her in the beginning of the game. But that's one of the big things for me that changed throughout it. When I first played as her, and like I explored the menus, and they were like, "Oh, you can craft stuff." I was like, "Okay, maybe this is like the flashbacks where Ellie could craft things or whatever, you know." And then I saw the skill tree, and I was like, "Oh fuck, man, I'm gonna be playing as this girl for a really long time, aren't I? If she's got a skill tree, this is gonna be a long thing for me." And at first, I hated it. I really thought it was not a good decision. I thought it was kind of shoehorned in to make me feel sympathy for this character, or like start to understand the motivations behind this character. But once I finished the game, I felt that it was much more fitting than I originally felt. I still don't really care as much for it, but I understand why it's included. You know what I mean?
And you see change in the character from...
Exactly.
I think the biggest change is when I'm trying to think, she's cutting through and she gets caught by the scars.
Right.
And you get the scene where I think it's the first proper trailer where they bash the woman's arm with a hammer.
Yeah, I could have swore they gutted somebody too, didn't they? In that trailer, in the first trailer we saw, I thought they gutted somebody.
They did,
but they didn't in the game. I don't think. Not that I can recall, at least. Maybe they cut that part out because people said it was too much. But yeah, they broke what's her face's arm, which was brutal as hell.
Yeah, they broke Yara's up, but they didn't just break it. They shattered it.
Yeah, to pieces.
So they had to amputate.
Yeah. And I guess, so I'll put it this way. There were a few deaths that I was surprised by, and one not death. I wasn't surprised. I was surprised by. Um, I was surprised that Jesse died, and I was surprised he died so quickly. It just seemed kind of out of the blue. But that's just what this world does, right? Like, it's just like you're alive and now you're not. Like, that's just kind of what we come to expect from it. But it still kind of took me by surprise. I was kind of surprised Yara died as well, but in the context of how she dies, it made sense. It didn't happen as quickly as Jesse's does, or like it's not as glossed over as quickly, you know. And then I was surprised Tommy lived because I thought he got shot in the fucking head, like, and it looks like he's like kind of had a stroke when you see him later on. You know what I mean? Like he's got that limp and like his face is kind of slouched on one side.
But if you look, the limp could be the injury because Lev shot him. Lev hit the boat.
Oh yeah, that's right. He shot him in the leg. Yeah.
So there could have been nerve damage or anything.
Right. He could have severed something in there that really fucked it up. But yeah, I was surprised by Tommy not dying. I thought for sure he was dead. Like I 100% thought he was dead. So that was kind of a good surprise. I got one more thing before we kind of move past that, but so with the switching back and forth, originally I felt it was pretty strange because especially on day 3, I felt like day 3 was really strong and it was like, all right, we're leading up to this really epic moment, this you know what I mean, like the showdown between the two of them. And then it's just like, all right, yeah, you're back to day 1 of Abby in Seattle. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And it just slowed down for me originally at so like to almost to a halt, and then kind of really starts picking back up again. It gets obviously I think day 1 is probably like day 1 Abby is probably the weakest part of the story. Not that I think it's weak, but I think it kind of disrupted a bit, but it's necessary to kind of get to where we need to go. You know what I mean? In terms of getting to the end of the story. But I really felt that everything else in Abby's story was really strong. I actually think she had better set pieces, personally. Like the scene with the Scar Island and Haven, I thought was probably the best scene in the game, in my opinion. I thought that was probably the coolest area.
Ground Zero was probably the most... I think the toughest ones was the hospital for her. I mean, having to balance over that beam, and it takes into the fact that the altitude as well, the game, because it doesn't take much to send you tumbling.
Right. And you know this game doesn't pull punches, so if you fall, you're fucking done. Like, she lucked out in that fall. That was a scripted fall, right? Where she falls into the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
And then, but that section when they go in, it's like, I'll put your mask on, haven't got a mask, and you're thinking, oh, fuck.
Yeah, right.
I mean, getting through the hotel down that was tense.
Yeah. I think pretty much from the hospital on, Abby's story is really strong and good, yeah.
But when you go into Ground Zero, and it's not so bad at the start, it's when you get into as soon as you turn the generator back on and the lights are not on, then it starts getting crazy.
Yep. I remember talking to you before you played that section, and I was like, yeah, just wait for it.
Yeah, Rat King.
Yeah, the Rat King is insane. God. He's easily the craziest boss in the game.
Half bloater. Was he half bloater, half clicker?
I think he's stalkers. Yeah, I think he's made up of stalker and bloaters, yeah.
It's like, what the hell?
Because we've never seen them merge together like that before. They've never done that.
No. I could cope with the big thing coming at me, and when it starts breaking up and I've got stalkers coming at me and this big fucking mutant thing coming at me, it's like, what the hell do I do here?
That was probably the first time in the game where I was like, I don't care what I have left after this fight. Fuck this thing. Throw everything at it. Like, that...
I did. It got me the first time. I got quite a way through. And then it caught me, and literally, as soon as it caught me, I'm done.
Yeah, you're one hit, it one hits you.
Second time, I got sandwiched between the stalker and it. That didn't last very long. The third
Yep.
time, he caught me just as I was trying to climb through a window, like a panel, and got me.
Right.
And then the fourth time I got it, I thought I beat it, and then I get a bloody stalker. It's like Ellie goes, "It's still." Abby's going, "It's still alive," and it's like, "Oh, for God's sake,
Yeah.
you're joking! I don't have to fight it again, do I?" But no, it was the
Just the stalker, yeah. Because I think it's scripted. I think you have to kill the. Well, it assumes you will kill the bloater part before you kill the stalker, because he ends up running off, right? Like into an event or something.
yeah.
Yeah. Um.
I
Speaking
remember
of,
finishing that. I remember finishing that, getting into the daylight. It's like,
thank God.
and I literally did breathe a sigh of relief and say, "Fuck for that."
Yeah.
Was my initial thought.
That was one of the very few times in the game where I genuinely forgot about, like, okay, like, I'm just whatever playing a game and whatever, and I was actually concerned of, like, holy fuck, this thing is gonna kill me. Like, this thing will kill me. And I was genuinely concerned about dying, you know what I mean? I love that fight. I thought that fight was really good, because one of the things I was kind of worried about was boss fights, because The Last of Us didn't really have boss fights. It has that really good one with the cannibals. I thought that one was really good, but in this one I didn't. There weren't many, right, until Rat King and that fight with Ellie, right? Those two, and then the two fights with Abby, right, are the only real boss fights in the game. I guess
Yeah.
if you would even consider them boss fights. They're not really traditional boss fights, but they're like the big.
They're not overplayed either. They're quite short.
Yeah, they're quite short. They're not like 20-minute fights. I think most combat in this game is limited to like 10, 15 minutes at most if you're really like hurting. But yeah, I really, really loved Abby's sections. I just didn't care about trying to sympathize with her. But I think what it did is it did a turn heel on me, because what, I guess we'll finish on, because I want to move into the Abby and Ellie thing and then kind of move towards the end of the game, because we're about 40 minutes in, so I think we're doing pretty good. I don't think we've missed anything you want to talk about yet, have you? Or have we?
No.
Okay, cool.
I don't think so.
I think one of the things that was concerning to me, and I don't think it's bad storytelling or anything, but when I played it, I was actually disheartened by it, is when they fight right at the first time in the theater, and you've known at this point Abby doesn't give a fuck. Like, she'll just kill if she has to, even if it was like her own people. Like, you just saw her kill her own people, you know what I mean? So this, she doesn't care at this point. Like, if she has to kill somebody, she'll do it. And not killing Ellie intentionally for Lev, and not killing Dina, I think really kind of showed like her turn of a character. And while I wasn't like, yeah, you've turned over a new leaf, like, good for you, and I wasn't like super proud of her or whatever, I was still like, fuck this bitch for killing Joel. But I was like, okay, I think that's a good place to leave it off. And I genuinely thought the story was going to end there. Like, I thought that's how the game was going to end. And then of course it didn't. And I was like, man, I was really disheartened when Ellie's like, yeah, fuck this, I gotta go kill this bitch. And I was like, you really didn't learn. You're going to die. Like, if you do this, you're probably gonna die. You almost died last time. Like, and now you're not gonna have everybody watch your back, so you're not even gonna luck out. You know what I mean? I genuinely thought the end of the game was gonna be like Ellie's gonna die or something. You know what I mean? When I was playing through it the first time, I was like, why are you doing this? This makes no sense. And I think that's probably what they were trying to go for. You know what I mean? Of just like, because when I've seen discussions on it, it's just that cycle of revenge, right? It just never really ends, right? Joel killed my dad, you killed Joel, so I gotta kill you. So I killed your friends. Well, you killed my friends, now I gotta kill your friends. And I'm gonna kill you. No, I'm gonna kill you.
It just went emotional roller coaster, up and down, up and down.
Right.
But the way they sequenced it as well, because start off, Joel is brutally murdered. That hit me. And then you've got the scene with Ellie by the grave, and that triggers off her wanting to do something. But the scene by the grave, the floral tributes, got me. Seeing the picture of Joel and Sarah in the house,
right,
that was too much. That hit me. And And the way they went backwards and forth with the motions. There was one scene in the playthrough I knew was coming, and I didn't think anything of it until it happened, because you go through and you're in the aquarium, you go through, and then Alice the dog, but you don't know who the dog is at this point.
Right. You're just like, fuck
John's
this dog.
Ellie, and Ellie kills the dog. You don't think anything of it because you've had them in Capitol Hill.
Right.
But when you start Abby's story, you realize this dog is a character.
Right.
They care for this dog. They love this dog.
Right.
And then when you see Abby go through the same section just before basically tracing Ellie's steps, I'm thinking, hold on, this is not long after Ellie's been here. Then I saw Alice on the ground.
Right.
And that broke me. The
Right.
fact that I've just killed the dog. Like,
see, I think I was more hardened than you were, because I was so bent on when I played through originally. Now that I've sat on it and I've kind of marinated in the story and really thought back on it, I do kind of sympathize more than I did when I played it. But my original playthrough, I was just so mad about her killing Joel that I was like, I don't care about anything. Fuck all these people. Like, they can all die for all I care. And so I kind of understood Ellie's story a lot more. But yes, thinking back on it, they do a good job.
When you get to that point, yeah.
No, go ahead.
But when you get to that point, you understand Abby's view, because when you think it was her dad that died, and if they'd got the cure from Ellie would have died. Her dad was the one who didn't want to do the procedure because Ellie would have died. It was Marlene that pushed him.
Yep.
And Abby pushed him. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah, he said the only way to do it was to kill her, basically, and they show him being resistant to it, but also being like, look, if this is what we gotta do, I guess it's what we gotta do, for the greater good kind of thing. And I think because the Last of Us, the original ending, has been discussed to death, because it's really, a moral dilemma. Like, what do you do in that? How do you deal with that scenario? Like, Joe goes on a fucking killing spree just over Ellie when he could have, almost saved the world, or ended most of the nightmare. You know what I mean? And so, I think they do a better job of showing that in this game, where it's like, look, other people are willing to take that risk, and it's not because they're heartless assholes. It's because they genuinely they want to just make the world better, and they want to rid it of this, of the disease or whatever, the infection. And so I feel like I've come to understand it a lot better. My thing was so here's the thing, I'm actually reading my notes, and I wrote them down exactly as what I originally thought, so that we can discuss them both as what I thought and kind of how I'm feeling now that I've sat on it. So what I wrote was that at the end fight between Abby and Ellie I thought it was wrapped up really well, because I think, and we haven't discussed it yet, so Abby goes to Santa Barbara, we discussed that, they both go to Santa Barbara. Ellie eventually finds her after the Rattlers. I thought the Rattlers were really good, by the way. I thought that was a really cool faction that didn't get I feel like really enough time, because they had the helmets, which was really cool. You couldn't headshot them, so you had to think about new ways on how to get past them, and I focused more on stealth at that point. And I also thought that the inclusion of being able to use the clickers and the zombies in their compound was really nice, because I just let those clickers loose that were in the pool, and they killed most of the people in there. I barely had to do anything. I just let the clickers run loose, and I was just like, I'm just going to lay down here in the grass. Good luck, everybody. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I did
the same. I let the clickers loose, but the AI dispatched them. They got rid of them fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So I didn't. So I had to deal with the Rattlers.
That's funny, because the first time I did it, that's what happened. The AI immediately headshotted the clickers and they were just done. But then I died trying to take them out, or trying to sneak past them. And then I was like, all right, let me try it this way instead. So what I did is I crawled up, I set down some bombs in what I knew were their paths at this point. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to kill a couple of guys here and there, set these bombs down, and then I'm going to go let the clickers out. And I let the clickers out, and I waited for one of the bombs to be set off. So the clickers were loose. They were just standing there. The bomb went off. They're all freaking out about the bomb, focused, on that area. And then the clickers ran in and that caught him by surprise. So like that's the kind of depth when we're talking about the combat. Like you could just do stuff like that, and it's really thought out. Like you just
it is
do so many cool things. Have you seen that GIF of the person that killed 3 people in like 3 seconds? Yeah.
No.
I forget the exact clip, but the short version is they're surrounded by 3 people, like in a triangle shape. You're kind of in the middle, and Ellie throws a smoke bomb, kills the first guy, gets grabbed by the second guy, beats him, turns around, and I think she like kind of ran away, turned around and threw a Molotov and just kills them both. I think that's what it was. There's like this. I
haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's like a 10. If I find it again, I'll send it to you. It's like a 10-second clip. It happens really fast. But yeah, I know we keep coming back to it, but it's because I think that's where you'll find the most enjoyment in the game. Even though I think the story's fairly good, the combat is just so appealing. It just feels really refined, and I really think it's like they capitalized on the way they did the first game and really perfected it. But anyways, yeah, with so getting back to where we were going with Abby and Ellie, she finally finds her. Abby tried to escape, didn't go so well, she got caught, and they're basically being crucified is basically what's happening. So they're dying when Ellie finds both her and Lev, and so she lets them die.
Abby was infected though, wasn't she? I'm sure the prisoner said she's been bit.
Oh, she was referring to Ellie and that bite mark she got from the clicker or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like on her thumb or whatever. And so, yeah. Because I thought the same thing. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're referring to the bite mark on Ellie's arm. I don't think they're talking about Abby, but maybe they are. It didn't seem like Abby got bit. But, yeah, so she lets her down, and for a second, they're like, she doesn't immediately kill her or confront her, and she's like, all right, let's get to the boats. And then they get to the boats, and then she's like, yeah, I can't let you go. I gotta fight you. And Abby's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. I'm done. Like, I'm done with this shit. I'm trying to go. And that was the first point where I was like, fuck, man. Ellie's really just like, this is unnecessary. Fuck. She's really not looking like the good person here.
Yeah, because Abby doesn't want to fight. She just wants to leave. She wants to get Lev and go. And then
you were saying, I'm sorry? I don't know if you cut out.
Yeah, it might have just briefly cut. No, Abby doesn't want to fight. She wants to get Lev in the boat and just go. She just wants to live her life with him. Because as she said earlier in the game, when Yara died, and said, look what happened to your people. So no, you're my people now.
And I thought that was actually a really good moment. It's really short, and so like maybe it's not impactful for a lot of people, but I think it's important for her character and just how much she changes throughout the game.
And this is where it's a side of Ellie you don't expect. And they have the fight, and then you've got Ellie literally Abby's head under the water, and she's literally drowning because you can see the arms going in, and she's just so close.
Yeah, she's like on the brink of death.
And then you see what I assume would be a flashback for her. You see Joel,
right,
and then she stops, as if to say, Joel's done this previously. Would Joel want you to do the same thing and have the same consequences?
Right. And she comes to terms with it. She realizes, I think in that moment, she has to break this cycle of just the nonstop violence and revenge.
And I think Abby was thrown by it as well. She expected to die.
She put up a hell of a fight, though.
She did.
And she was weak as shit compared to what she was before.
Yeah, she got some good punches in, and then she just says, like, go and be gone. And then she's off, and there's Ellie's just sat there in the water.
Right. I think there's one bit we didn't mention, and I feel like it's important because it's important to the, I think, the visualization of the character. Was she bites fucking 3 Ellie's fingers off.
She does.
And, like, it's pretty fucking brutal. And and it's just a
That's
cut.
some strength.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, to bite a finger off, from what I hear, biting fingers is roughly about the strength of a carrot. Like it's about as hard as biting into a carrot. So it's not impossible. But yeah, she's super strong anyway, so it probably wasn't too hard for her. But I think the visual representation of I guess the Ellie's sin in quotes, you know what I mean? Like the consequence of what she's decided to do, sticking with her like that, is important for maybe kind of how they choose to have her going forward. Which kind of leads me to the last point, which is the ending, the actual ending. Because I feel like they could have ended the game there and been fine with it, but they chose to go a little bit past to kind of give you a little bit more resolve. But they also kind of leave it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Because she goes back to the farm.
Right. And Dina's
What
been
I did,
long gone.
I walked up, walked past the tree. You could see the D plus E plus JJ. Walk in, everything's gone. So I
Right.
walk in the kitchen, all empty. Walk. The only room I had stuff in was
What was Ellie's
the room
room?
Ellie was obviously like the
Yeah.
studio. I pick the guitar up, and then you get the thing she tries to play it, and then it's on the wall. You just see the scene of it on the wall, and then zooming in, and her walking, going back through to that gate. Where did
Right.
where did Dina go with the baby? Have they
Right.
gone back to Jackson? Because I'm assuming Tommy was still in Jackson
Yeah, he goes
at this
back, I
point.
think, because he says he can't do it by himself at this point because he's all fucked up.
And Dina said some very harsh words to Tommy
Yeah.
as he left. And there was some Tommy felt let down.
Right. He was not very pleased with both Dina and Ellie's decision.
And I think it weighed and weighed on Ellie, and then she just had to see it through.
Right. And I think
But
that's important to that story too. But it really showcases like the mm, evil is not the right word, but I guess the hatred, you know what I mean? And just how like being so obsessed or hateful can just drive you to do insane things. You know what I mean? Versus
another
Joel's
thing,
Joel's story was about
people
his
for
care
yeah,
and his selfishness. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. But people forget when they go through, the first game is basically just survival. He's getting her from A to B and trying to survive and doing it. There's
Right.
no motive other than getting her from A to B. The only time any motive kicks in is the finale,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Where he
Here,
decides he needs to do something.
here you've got the consequences of that, so there is a motive. But one thing people forget, probably when they say this wouldn't happen in this, how do we know? How many of us have lived in the post-apocalyptic world?
Right. I think and I don't want to let me steal it from him directly because I feel like this was really good. I think you follow Brandon on Twitter, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he put it really well. Let me steal his quote because I don't want to like unaccredit him. By the way, him and Billy are part of a group called Level One, right? That's the group they're
yeah.
part of. Yeah, I don't know much about those guys, but if they work with Billy, I think they're probably pretty good guys. So check them out if you could. I'm gonna shamelessly plug them here while I'm at it. But Billy retweeted it. Where is it? It's pretty good. It's something about the characters of The Last of Us, and oh, here it is. Yeah, The Last of Us 2 has no heroes or villains or good guys and bad guys. It's about survivors doing whatever to survive. People are outraged for nothing. Obviously, I wanted to before we wrap up. I want to talk about outrage or whatever, but um, regarding that,
It's so true because there is no heroes or villains. Because
right,
when you look at it from the two. Think of the story as two sides of a coin. You
right,
toss the coin, you've got Eddie's. You toss the and or the Jackson. You've tossed the other side. You've got what was St. Mary's Hospital and leading on from wherever the Fireflies went to Wolves and whatnot. Abby's story is they're trying to do something for humanity. They're trying to save humanity. They think they've got somebody who's immune to the infection. Can they produce, say, an antibody from this? Can they produce a vaccine from this?
Right.
Can they do something to stop this spreading and at least get life back?
Right.
Things go badly wrong because the only way to do this cure is the person who's immune, maybe the only person who's immune. It's never been discussed whether she's the only one.
Right. Nobody knows.
So there could be others.
I'm not gonna
For
lie.
all we know,
I thought.
For all we
Lev
know,
was
Joel
gonna be
could.
immune. Sorry, I
For all we
didn't
know,
mean-
Joel. For all we know, Joel could have been immune. For all we know.
For all we know, we don't. Yeah, we don't truly know because he never gets bit, as far as I'm aware.
Exactly. And to get the cure for mankind, you have to sacrifice one life
For everyone.
for many.
Yeah. I was
And-
actually talking about this with... Who the fuck was I talking? I was talking about this with Billy, actually. Because I was comparing it to Spider-Man. Because in Spider-Man, we see the same dilemma. I have to choose whether or not to save this one person I love or the good of the many. You know what I mean? And it plays out two totally different ways.
Yeah. And then the natural thing is it's one life, it's tragic. But for the rest of humanity, it could be good.
Right.
But then you've got Joel, who has gone across from the east to the west with her, literally.
Right.
She saved his life. Because you remember he was badly wounded, and she's
Right.
when you do the snow mission in The Last of Us. And he comes after her, literally, as she's been captured. Because you've got that bloke in it's the diner, and you're hunting him.
Yeah.
That fight I hate. I hate that fight more than
I love
Joel
that.
sees. Joel has obviously gone to really care for Ellie, and there's a bond there, and it's a case of somebody he cares about.
Right.
Just to have a cure to save people is going to die, and I think the reason he got so angry more because he'd lost Sarah. I think it brought that back, and he wasn't going to go through that loss again.
Yeah, he couldn't deal with the loss of somebody else he cared about.
And I get where Joel's coming from. So he's done what he thought was right.
Right. And they emphasize that, I think, at the very end, don't they? When they have that conversation in the flashback? When they finally show the flashback?
Yeah, well, that was hard, seeing Joel and Ellie again, but it was the last conversation they were going to have.
Right. Well, the last, real conversation, because they kind of have a conversation here and there between the point in time at the very end where they show that flashback and where he dies, but that's the last, real conversation they have between the two of them and how she's trying to forgive him for what he did.
Because it's literally... It's the night before she goes on patrol.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about the events in the bar.
Right.
Because the game starts off with Ellie. She wakes up the morning after. So the morning after that conversation,
right,
they go to the diner. She speaks to Maria, and Seth hands her the sandwiches, and she gives them to Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
They go off, and you have the snowball fight. You go off, and they do the patrol. And the next time she sees Joel, he's literally on the floor, virtually dead.
Right. And so piecing that together is so different than the way it's originally presented. Yeah.
It's so you see a flashback of the last time. Not only did she speak to him, but last time she saw him in good health. Because the next time she sees him, he's dead.
He's almost dead. Much. Yeah, he's almost dead.
Well, from the injuries he had, he would have been brain damage.
Yeah, he was already pretty much there. She just dealt the flying blow to him.
And
yeah, it's just
but
powerful.
when you put the two stories side by side, who's the villain?
Exactly.
At the start of the day, is the real antagonist Joel? for killing her dad, for killing Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
Or is she the real antagonist for killing Joel?
Right. I think it makes you question those and be like, how do you reconcile that? Because, like, one of the ideas I had while we were having this discussion is they could have easily, hypothetically, made the first half of this game, then, like, they could have had it, and honestly, they could have done it in a twisty way where it's like, okay, we're going to do Abby's journey to Jackson. You know what I mean? And they could have done it that way where they kind of did it in that shroud of, like, mystery and just been like, okay, this is who you're playing as for now, and kind of lead up to Joel's death and not really kind of tell you that's what she's going for. Or just kind of lead to, like, all right, so she's going on, like, a revenge quest or whatever, and kind of do it in the way they did it. But I think that the way it's presented is perfectly fine as well. And just, yeah, her story becomes much more compelling once you complete it, and I think it's really hard to grapple with while you're playing it. You know what I mean? Or at least it was for me.
I mean, when they're hunting for them and they say, they've found this camp, we've found such and such.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of Joel. I was thinking, has something happened? And they're after Tommy, and the revenge is Ellie and Joel. Joel's pissed because it's his brother.
Right.
And Ellie's fond of Tommy too.
Of course.
He's like family, so is that the revenge? I thought they were after Tommy at first.
Which I think is reasonable to assume.
But no, it's Joel.
And I think it's hard to grapple with too, because you can't entirely say Joel didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying he deserved to die the way he did, but they definitely are like, Joel, you know, she says it, I think at some point in the game, Joel fucked with a lot of people, you know? Like, he did a lot of shit that probably pissed off a lot of people. So they didn't.
And so did Tommy so did Tommy as well.
Right, exactly. So it's not like Joel's completely innocent. They just, like, murdered this innocent guy or whatever, you know? And so it kind of makes you grapple with that, like, who really is to kind of blame for all of this. And it's just a matter of, these are people with emotions and motives and thoughts and feelings, and I feel like it's probably one of the more realistic adaptations of a video game story, you know what I mean? In terms of just, like, there's not the clear line of who's good and who's bad. These are just people doing what they think is right, you know?
It's just hard to work out who is right, who's wrong, because there's no heroes. As you said, there's no heroes, no villains. There's no
exactly,
good guys,
as he put it, yeah.
Bad guys. They're just trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world.
Right.
The best they can. And one side thinks they found something to end the chaos, and they're doing what they can to get humanity back. Can you blame them for wanting to do that?
Right, I don't think you can, and I think that really is what sets up the moral dilemma in the game, and I think it's, you know, presented really well. I guess regarding
and Joel wanted to protect somebody he cared about.
Right.
Can you blame him for that?
Exactly, it's a complex emotional web for sure. Where it's like, where do I fall? How would I feel about these types of things? And you kind of have to come to terms with, I guess, your own morality, you know?
I mean, imagine you're in Abby's shoes, you're in a post-apocalyptic world, and your dad's being killed, and you found the person who basically brutally killed your dad for trying to save them.
Right.
For literally no reason. How would you feel?
Because Joel didn't need to kill him, especially when you revisit and they play those hospital scenes. Joel didn't have to kill him. He could have just injured him, you know what I mean, and just prevented him from doing it, but he killed him. He chose to kill him, you know?
He could have just shot him in the knee, downed him, and taken it.
Right, exactly, but he actively chose, like, to murder everybody, you know what I mean? Or most of them, from what I recall. So, it's like, is Joel really blameless, you know? And I would agree that he's not. You know, I'm not happy about him dying because I have a connection. I care about that character, obviously. But when I came to the end of the game, I felt maybe, I guess, the way that they I don't know if it's the way they intended to, but the way it's presented to me and the way they present Ellie's emotions to me is that Joel did these bad things I've done these bad things. Abby did these bad things. Everyone has done these bad things. And if we want to be able to just live and not fucking end up killing each other, we have to let it end somewhere. We have to just be okay with it at some point, you know? And that's kind of how I felt with it, where it was like, okay, like, we have to, in that universe and how the story is presented to me is like, somebody has to put an end to it. Somebody has to stop it. Abby chose to actively at one point, and then Ellie chose to as well. And I thought it was just done really, really well.
It was brilliantly done from start to finish, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I guess
it had.
No, go ahead.
It had emotions go here, there, and everywhere. I mean, the ones that got me were Joel dying, seeing the grave, seeing the floral tributes at the house, seeing the picture that Elliot got for him from the first game, which he then framed with
him and Sarah.
Yeah, that hit home.
Right.
And then seeing that final conversation, and when you're going through and seeing how Abby has changed, and she walks in and she sees literally, basically the family pet just gunned down.
Right.
Which you've done yourself,
right.
technically, earlier in the game, and it's just like, oh shit.
Right. And you kind of sympathize more with, like, I felt bad about the killings of Mel and Owen specifically. Not so much Owen, because he did kind of test it, but, you know, they didn't need to die. And Ellie specifically tried not to kill them, you know? And she was shook by the fact that she did kill them because she didn't want to, and especially because Mel was pregnant or whatever, you know? And you see that
shook
later
her.
on.
You could... Yeah.
Because whatever, you know, Abby's almost gonna kill Dina, and she's like, why the fuck do I care if she's pregnant? You know, you killed my friend who was pregnant.
I mean, Seattle's not exactly a small place, so I always wondered, how the hell did they find them? I didn't cotton on the bloody map at the time.
Yeah.
When you first have the encounter when she comes in and Jesse dies, it's on Ellie playthrough. Like, how did they find them? How did they get in?
Exactly.
But Lev finds the map. Lev finds the map.
Right, because Ellie drops it and leaves it there. They kind of showed that, and I was like, oh shit, my map. I kind of need that. That was like the only thought I had at the time. And then obviously when you get to the aquarium, you're like, oh shit, that's right. Ellie dropped the fucking map. Yeah, I thought the way it's woven together is just incredible, I think. The last thing I really want to discuss, I guess, because I think it's especially poignant to this game, is the stupid controversies. I don't know if you have since beating the game, but I went back and read the spoilers that leaked.
I haven't. I never bothered.
Okay. So the spoilers are not that big, in my opinion. I think the biggest spoiler is Joel's death. I think that got spoiled in there. They also spoiled that Jesse died for some reason, which I don't think is that consequential until you play the game. And then what was the other? Oh, playing as Abby was also spoiled because that like leaked out or whatever. That clip leaked out of like some of her campaign or whatever. So they weren't that. I don't think the spoilers were that big of a deal. And with the story leaks that I had seen, they weren't even that big of a deal. So I'm not sure, because I think one of the things that people were concerned about that it got criticism for was the like super wokeness or whatever. And I think, you know, a lot of us kind of fall more on a liberal side in terms of left leaning and whatever being socially acceptable. So we don't really care about things like LGBT people being in games or like trans people being in games or stuff like that. I don't think that matters much to us in terms of like it being a positive or a negative. But like they made it sound like it was very crammed down our throats, but when you play the game it's not, especially because you know,
it's not really. There's obviously one scene just before they realize Joel and Tommy have gone missing,
right?
With Ellie and Dina in the safe house. not really mentioned that much overall, to be honest.
It's really not thrown in your face, right? They act very much as you would expect a normal couple. You know what I mean? In quotes, a normal, whatever heterosexual couple. It's not really any different. It's not like, oh, look at how gay we are. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. It's not thrown at you that way.
Dina's not in. With Ellie in Seattle Day 2 and Day 3, really.
Yeah, she's barely in the game at that point. Once she starts getting sick or whatever, having the morning sickness, she's barely in the game.
You only have a companion when she get up to the theater.
Yeah.
Jesse, you have briefly as a companion when you do up to trying to get to the aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
But Capitol Hill, she's on her own.
Right.
Until Jesse comes and gets her away, and that's... You don't really have much to do after that.
Right, and I think that was the one thing I majorly heard about, but I feel like the other one that'll get people's in a knot is that Lev is trans, which I don't really think matters much in terms of like it being a big deal. It's not made a big deal. It's important to the story because him being trans is not okay in their society or whatever, you know what I mean? Like him choosing to transition and want to identify as male or whatever is not okay because they want to whatever marry him to one of the elders or something like that. But they don't throw it in your face either. It's just like, okay, you assume because of the way he presents himself, you just assume he's a boy until later on in the game when they call him Lily.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think anything of it when I saw him. And then when they called him Lily, I was like, oh, he's probably trans. And that was literally the most I thought about it. Like, until they were like, yeah, he decided to transition. Like,
I didn't really think anything of it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the game doesn't make it a big deal. It's not like, look at how, like, woke we are. You know what I mean? It's not like throwing it in your face. It's just like, here's this person. They just happen to be trans. Moving on. Like, and that's it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't really see the fuss, personally.
If people are going to make a fuss out of that, they're going to not like the Arrowverse show Flash because they've got a trans character in that.
See, I haven't seen Flash in a very long time, but
I'm sure if I'm right, there's a trans character played by a trans
probably
actor.
I'd have to ask Adam because he's the only other person I know that watches Flash. But even like whatever, White Canary was gay, and they didn't make a big deal out of that either. Like a lot of the times when I see these like complaints of like, oh, we're throwing like whatever wokeness in your face, it's really not that egregious. Sometimes it is. I'll give them that. Sometimes it's annoying, but it's not like every instance of this is like you have to accept gay people. Like, it's not that. It's just like, here's this person, they happen to be gay. All right, that's it. Moving on. We've identified their character. Like,
yeah. I mean, you've got the Batwoman show with
Batwoman she's gay too.
Yeah, that's acceptable. Sarah Lance and Legends of Tomorrow as White Canary is acceptable. Dreamer, who I think was trans in Flash, is acceptable.
And it's rarely ever like even brought up or mentioned other than like showing romantic scenes or whatever. Like, it's not, you know what I mean?
I'm sure there's been incidents of this in Walking Dead, and there's like
yeah, it's not really thrown in our face the way some people I think make it out to be. I hate to bring it up because I don't like to like signal boost people I don't like or I think are not helpful, but like I'm sure you're aware of what's his face, One Angry Gamer, I think is his name. Dude's just like a walking like butthurt like personification, you know what I mean? He's just like constantly pissed off about something.
I know who you mean. I haven't watched this.
I don't read any of his crap, but sometimes he shows up like in my timeline or something like that because people are like dunking on him or whatever.
Him and Crap Gamer, I see the post, but it's the flare MP and I just ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I don't really understand the tizzy, and I don't want to call anybody out because I don't want anybody to feel like personally attacked or whatever. But I know people who have played this game that are not necessarily pro LGBT, and they're not like, yeah, this shit is like super woke. Like they haven't said anything about it. I think you know who I'm talking about. But like, you know what I mean? I know people who aren't pro LGBT or anti LGBT, and they're still not like. I still haven't seen anybody say anything where it's like, this is stupid, super woke. Like, you know, if they're not saying it, then you know, I don't know who's agreeing with you at this point.
And the review bombing and
yeah, the review bombing is stupid. We did a whole episode on that because we thought it was funny. Like just how review scores are basically useless now.
Yeah, you saw the one. It's from Amazon. It's like a negative 1-star review.
Yeah, you told me this.
Criticizing the game from 2018. The game hasn't even out.
And that was before the spoilers even came out.
Like, exactly.
So it's just people being stupid. Which kind of leads to, I don't know, maybe you and I can have this discussion, because I was thinking about doing a video on just our community as a generalization, you know what I mean? Like, why we get a bad rep as the gaming community. So maybe that's another discussion for another day, but I think we covered that as much as we really can, because we don't really have much to say on it. Honestly, like no. It's like it presents you these characters who just happen to be gay or trans or whatever, and then it's just like, all right, moving on. It's not that important. In Lev's case, it kind of is, but it's not like thrown constantly in your face. It's just essential to the story and why things are happening.
To sum up the furor behind the game and why it got review bombed before release. You've got Jesse dying, you're playing as another character, and you've got characters with different sexual orientations or preferences or
whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And which aren't slammed in your face, and the leaks and
I think the leaks were probably deceptive, and they definitely made people freak out about nothing, in my opinion.
And if you're still hurt by that, grow up.
Yeah, I mean,
it's 2020.
Come on,
it's
man.
2020.
Yeah, I don't like getting into politics too much, but at the same point, like, this type of stuff is not going to affect the game. They could have easily made it where these people, whatever, weren't trans or whatever, weren't gay, and it basically wouldn't impact the story almost at all. The only time I ever really cringed is one time at the very beginning when Ellie calls what's-his-face a bigot. And it's only because I was like, like, I've heard bigot used a lot, like, and it's just kind of cringy to me. But that was the only part where I was like, Like, otherwise, the rest of the time I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I didn't think nothing of it, you know? And I'm not saying everybody has to think that way. I'm just saying, like, it's really not gonna dull your enjoyment of the game.
Yeah. People are people. Characters are characters.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're not real, so don't get that butthurt about it.
And even if they were, take them as the person they are, not for what they show. Take them for what they are inside. Does it matter if they're gay? Does it matter if they're lesbian? Does it matter if
it's not
they want to be
fam.
a man? Does it matter if they want to be male or female? No, it doesn't. What matters is who they are as a person.
Right.
And I think people getting hurt on this, it's like, is this a social thing? Or if that presented in real life, would you be so the same butthurt?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's one of those problems where I don't want to get into it too much because it's very political, obviously.
I don't either.
But I guess we can sum it up, I think. And I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, but I think it's just that political discourse has just bled into literally everything. You can't get anywhere without everything being about politics now. And it didn't always used to be that way. At least with the internet, you could divide a lot of things. And if there were, I don't know, I'm sure there were probably people that were pissed off and butthurt about Sigourney Weaver being a lead female character in Alien back in the 80s or whatever, you know? But, like, you just didn't hear about it because they didn't have anywhere to bitch about it. So it's probably just a small group of people. I'm not really worried about the dogs that are barking. Let's put it this way. The Last of Us sold 4 million fucking copies in less than a week. The game's fine. Like...
Last I looked, and somebody sent me a screenshot of this after release. So people that were off the PlayStation Store, I think it had 5 stars.
That doesn't surprise me because the PlayStation Store doesn't really get review bombed, and you can't go on the PlayStation Store unless you have an account.
So the people that are reviewing it
probably are playing the fucking game and buying it. Yeah.
In fact, shall we?
Yeah, go ahead. If you can find it, go ahead.
I'm gonna have a look because obviously I'm not using my TV at the moment. I can fire up the PS4 and check.
Yeah, go ahead and just check the store real quick. I'll load it up on my phone if I can find it real quick here, because I'm pretty sure. I'm sure it's getting positive. Go ahead.
I bet you find it before me because I'm going to turn the PS4 on it.
Yeah, and the PlayStation Store is fucking terrible sometimes. I like how I just type in L and the first thing that shows up is Last of Us 2. Like, I don't even have to really search that hard for it. It's got 4 stars right now with 12,000 ratings. 12,316 ratings. So there you go.
That's what you get on the US store.
Yeah, that's what I got on the US store, yeah.
And if people hear lovely music in the background, that's the PlayStation 4. Or just mute the TV.
Yeah, I'm not finding the actual reviews. I'm not sure you can actually leave a review. I think you can only rate it on stars.
Let's have a look. What's hot? Is it in the what's hot section?
I just searched and found it pretty easily. What was I trying to find the other day that was like ridiculously hard? Oh, I was trying to find like Resident Evil 7 or something because it was on sale the other day, and I could not find it for the fucking life of me, dude. I don't know why it was buried so deep, like in the search bar. The search for the PlayStation Store is terrible. But yeah, were you able to find it?
Yep, I've got out of 1,386 listings, it's 4.5 stars.
Right, exactly. So the people that are buying and playing the game have spoken, in my opinion.
I don't know if if I look, that's on the deluxe edition. If I look on the standard edition, it's 9,103 ratings, and it's still 4.5.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that the people who are buying and playing the game are actually speaking about it. I'm sure there's some positive, in quotes, review bombing, you know what I mean, where people are like going out of their way to 5-star it, but I don't think that's the majority of what you're saying here. I think it's generally how people feel. I feel like that's probably a more accurate barometer. But
when you see a game 4.5 stars when it's over 9 out of 9,000 plus,
right,
then I tend to think when I see that this game's a good game.
Exactly. I think if you were removed from the context of all the stupid controversy and game news and all that kind of shit, like, I don't think you'd think anything of it. So, but we've been going for roughly about an hour and a half. We covered, I think, everything. Is there anything else you feel like we did not leave covered? I feel like I hit everything I wanted to. We've
covered the story, the issues of the story, the controversies in the story, the debate on the story,
the gameplay. We've gone over mechanics.
Game visually, we didn't mention.
Yeah, we didn't discuss visuals. It's insanely visual. I don't think I really needed to hit it on it too much. If you're watching this,
it is
probably played.
It is insane. There's a scene. It's Abby's playthrough when she's a kid in the park where she's with her dad, and you walk into that open grassy area.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah. I actually sent Billy a photo of the screenshot, and he did say, if you hadn't told me that was a screenshot, I would have thought you were sending me a photo.
Yeah, it's Naughty Dog. I think it's fair to say that Sony at this point, in terms of their first-party games, are just unmatched in quality. Like a lot of third-party games are getting very close to that. I feel like the Assassin's Creed games are visually very appealing as well. But I just don't think that the fine detail to the point where if I zoom in on something, you know what I mean, and I'm seeing all the cracks or rust spots or whatever, you know, I feel like that Sony is the one doing that.
Reflections in this game were on point. When you see in the aquarium, the underwater was amazing.
I'd love to see what this looks like on PS5.
I mentioned that in the impressions, funnily enough. I said, imagine what this is like with ray tracing.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. The game's going to look insane. I'm glad that I know Ghost of Tsushima will technically be the swan song for first party on PS4, But I feel like this is the one people are going to remember. I could be wrong. We haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. It's still got a month out, but I don't know if
it's 3 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, the 17th. So not too much longer. And it's beautiful
I'm
as
just
well.
waiting for they've said it's the best looking PS4 game ever.
It's definitely one of the best looking I've ever seen. I'll give them that. But I'm going to hold my reservations on it. But I think when you think about PS4, right, and you think about the games that came with it, I get the feeling we're going to be talking about Spider-Man, God of War in this game. You know? Like, these are going to be the tentpole of what made PS4 great. So, and I couldn't be happier with this being one of the last games on it, in my opinion, from first party, at least.
Give me 3 weeks and I'll tell you whether Ghost of Tsushima looks any better than this.
Right. I'm very interested. We'll talk about that one. I'm sure you'll do some impressions. I want you to do them specifically because you don't really like Souls-born games, and this is not at that level, but apparently it's very difficult. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to say.
I'm aware of. They said the same with Fallen Order.
Yeah, that's true. They did, and that game's not nearly as hard as Souls.
I didn't get any Souls references from that.
Exactly.
If anything, Ghost of Tsushima reminded me more of Assassin's Creed in a way than.
It looks like a tougher Assassin's Creed, but we'll get there in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's bought. I've just got to wait for it to unlock.
Yeah, pretty much.
In store.
It went gold so soon.
Yeah. I can actually tell people if they're still watching. We've mentioned Ghost of Tsushima. If they give me 2 seconds, I will tell you roughly how long it is till it's available. Because
I think when I saw it last night, it was like 21 days or something.
Is that to release or preload?
I'm not sure because I looked at it when it went gold the other day. So it might be to preload. Usually it's a couple days or a week before the game comes out, right? That they let preloads.
Last of Us was, I think, the 12th. Right. It was a week before. That's going to be an interesting one, because which is going to get Game of the Year? Because obviously I won't class Cyberpunk now because that's November.
Yeah, it's not.
I do Game of the Year. I do it November to November, but
right.
It had some. It's going to take something to steal it from The Last of Us, I think.
Yeah, this game is going to crop up on a lot of lists. I know for sure it's going to be in my top games of the year. I don't know where it'll fall because I've had a lot of really enjoyable experiences this year. This is definitely among them, but it's also been one of the more contemplative ones where I've actually had to think about how I felt about the game versus most of the ones I've played. I'm just like, yeah, I love this game or I hate it.
So, my Ghost of Tsushima says 19 days, 23 hours, but they give you an unlock.
Yeah, I think that's just when it releases.
They haven't put the unlock on yet. The preload yet.
Yeah, so probably
I've got the theme. The theme's up now.
Is it? I'll have to check and download it. But we've been going for about an hour and a half. That's about what we wanted. I think we covered pretty much everything. We got a little bit further, which is nice. Of course, we want to know what you thought of The Last of Us 2. Don't be a dick and comment if you haven't played the game. Not to sound like an asshole, but I don't really care what you have to say at that point. Like, if you haven't played the game, I don't want your opinion on it. If you didn't buy it because you didn't think it was interesting, that's fine. That's your opinion. I don't really have a problem with that. But you can't tell me the game's shit if you haven't played it. Or you haven't at least watched the whole thing.
Me, it's Game of the Year. It's probably going to be Game of the Generation. And I'll go one step further with that. I'll say it'll be the Game of the Millennium.
Oh, that's a very high praise.
It also may be the best game I've ever played.
That's very high praise. I would definitely put it in my upper echelon of best games I've ever played.
Somebody said, how would I score it? And I asked them, and they said it'll be 95 to 100%.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give it 98.
I
had one issue where the journal clipped into the metal disc.
Oh, I have one. I guess on technical issues, there's a character model problem. If you're too close to walls, where the clickers or zombies will disappear when they're killing you. That happens to me sometimes. But other than that,
I didn't have that. and I had one in Santa Barbara when the tire goes under Ellie's feet. Once it's come out of the feet, she appears as 1 foot slightly floating. Go into photo mode and come back, or go to the menu and come back out. It's fine.
Huh. Yeah, they're pretty good about fine-tuning stuff like that. They're very, very meticulous in their testing. So, all right.
So that stopped at getting 100.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just short of 100 because of some small technicals, but it's in the upper echelons of the best games released this generation for sure, if not all time at this point. So,
I mean, last gen, towards the close of last gen, we got 2 monsters in Red Dead Redemption and The Last of Us.
Yep.
And then towards the end of this generation, we've had Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us 2.
Both phenomenal games, no doubt. And both vastly superior to their predecessors too, which is incredible, honestly.
Yeah.
So
I love this game.
Me too. I would agree with that. I think its ability to also evoke emotion out of me and conflicting feelings also is what makes me love it as a game. So I think that's a good way to end it. We appreciate you all who have stayed, no matter how much you watch. If you haven't watched till the end, you won't hear this, obviously, but we appreciate you sitting down, listening. Appreciate you for joining me, Darrell. I'm glad we could talk about this because I feel like this is the proper way to discuss this game, honestly.
It is.
So, if you watched the impressions...
We should have done this like a couple of months ago, but game got delayed because of the crazy situation the world's in. The only thing I can say to close it in is stay safe. Stay home.
Yep. I agree with that sentiment.
Yes, just stay safe in these crazy times. Especially
100% agree.
For those in America, spikes over there.
Yeah.
No, stay in. Avoid people where you can until this is over.
Stop throwing parties. Stop going to the beaches, please. That's all. We don't want a Last of Us situation. Come on, y'all. All right. We've had enough of COVID. I don't want COVID to be the Last of Us infection, all right? So, I think
no, I don't. I want normal life back.
Yeah, I would like to get back to the normal grind of our everyday life. That would be great. So, all right,
I want to be able to go with family, and I want to be able to go and watch a football match. I want to be able to go and watch a film. Exactly.
Get back to some semblance of normalcy. We all want that. I think that's the only thing we all agree on at this point.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody, stay safe. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you for the next one. Maybe we'll do this with Ghost of Tsushima, too, if we feel real strongly about it. Could be fun.
Good. That's a goodbye from me.
All right. Bye, everybody.